Welcome to Roadworthy-ish. In today's episode, we'll be building an RCA for the celica. For you who don't know what an RCA is, it's a small thing that makes a big difference. Basically, it's a roll center adjuster, hence the name RCA. It will take your suspension, your lower control arm in the front. If you lower a car a lot, it will get an angle that is not favorable for driving. And the RCA raises the roll point of your suspension front, hence the name as I said, and that will make the car drive really close to stock, even though it is insanely lowered, slammed, all that good stuff. So, as I said, small part, big difference. Let's get this little thing knocked out. Alright, real quick. I can see that a lot of you guys haven't subscribed to the channel. If you consider subscribing, that will help me grow this channel and get it off the ground. Thanks. Let's get started. First, before we start aligning, of course, roll center adjusters, because that will throw off any alignment that we've done. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but let's give it a try. Down here in the darkness, hello, the new arm. The anti-sway bar, as you can see, is almost touching the frame. I don't know if you can see it, but it really is. The arm and the sway bar were touching each other. Bruh. That sounded wrong. You know what I mean. Prior to making this modification with this, where we actually moved the point of the mount from center here out to here, that will give us another angle. But again, screwing up with these angles will affect your steering, so it's always a give and take situation. So we need to get this adjusted, so we need to make a roll center adjuster that will sit on top of the ball joint where the coilover meets the lower control arm. That will lower the lower control arm, giving us another angle, which will correct all this stuff that touches, and the car will act as if not lowered. And that's a good thing, because it's really hard to drive right now. It's like, you know, sailing a boat. You have to correct all the time and fight with it. So I guess we need to take some measurements, and they will be very crude and probably not that accurate. But who cares? RCA time. The idea of the RCA is that this is the lower control arm, this is the mount on the car, this is the where the strut will go on and go up. Alright, so when you lower the car, the control arm is going to go up because it's going to follow the shortened strut. At some point it gets so high that you'll start having issues with your caster arms and everything else. Sway bars will be touching, and that will be screwing up your steering and handling really bad. Also, it will not handle, it will have a lot of bump steer. So what you want to do is add a spacer between where your strut meets your lower control arm. That will get the lower control arm down to an angle which is more acceptable. I just usually say that from this point where it fits the chassis and this point where it meets the strut, I just want to have 20 millimeters in difference, like this. So we have some, that is probably the best place for setting up the car. For me, that's my experience from racing and drifting. And that is what I aim to do here. We have 80 millimeters of difference from this point to this point right now. So that is quite a lot. I am going to be making some, I don't know if it's gonna be too much with roll center adjusters of 60 millimeters. I might just do 50, I don't know. And then we can space it out from there, because the 60 might be a little bit too much, and it's always better to go lower on the RCA measurements And from there you can add spacers that you can weld on to make it permanent. Or the way that I'm gonna be making these guys, you can simply cut the tube that will set the height and put in a longer tube or make it shorter, whatever you want. So I think we're gonna go with a total of, I think we're gonna play it a little conservative. That's normally not my style, but this is a street car. And I also need to drive it in less than 24 hours. So I'm in a bit of a rush. The length doesn't take any longer to do, but if I had to cut it up and downsize it, that's a lot more work than just adding on a spacer. So 50 millimeters it is for now. Let us try to get this busted out. Making these guys is messy. You can buy them, they are not expensive, they're pretty cheap, and they are, almost all of them come in different lengths. You can choose what you want, different designs, all kinds of stuff, but I just find that it's much easier, faster just to make my own, especially when I need something custom like for this car. So let's go ahead and get a few of these busted out and see how much difference it's gonna make. Alright, the basic idea of my RCA is like this. 3 pieces of tube in the same height, a bottom and a top. The bottom needs to fit where the tie rod bolt goes up through, or sorry, that the lower control arm goes through. Needs clearance. We'll be placing these guys on. And all this will be welded, of course, and this will be the top. The top doesn't need a hole because it will line up through here with some guide pins that I'm going to be using, and then bolts from underneath to bolt it all together. So that is the basic idea. Now I'm just going to put it on just loosely on the car to see if I got the dimensions where I want them, or we should add or take off more metal. So trying it on the car, and then it's time to weld it, I guess. Alright, the lower piece of the left hand side RCA is done. It's fully welded on the inside, welded on the outside. It is straight right now. Should be. seem pretty straight. This is the top piece where the new guides have been put on. So this will accept the guides on the lower control arms, and these guides are for the bottom of the shocks, so that there will be no slop. All this will be controlled as it should. That being said, we're going to bolt it up through here, up through the top, the mount of the shock, and then add bolts or nuts to the top side. That should sandwich it all down together and keep everything firm and tight. So last thing is to get this welded on here. Test fit this on the car. If this works, we just repeat the process. Weld this other one that I already prepared together for the other side, and then we can finally get to aligning this damn thing. Oh. God diddly. That sucked. Well, this is one finished RCA, 50 millimeters. That's a pretty substantial one. There's lots of ways you can do these, billet, aluminum, all kinds of stuff. But if you have some pipe and some metal and measuring-ish skills, you can easily do this at home. Now, I guess it's time to see if it will fit the car. Alright, this is gonna be a bit tricky to show you guys, but I'm gonna do my best. So this needs to be like this, I think. Let's find out. Get this all the way up. Okay, this one, slide this in, fits, that's good. Ow, 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 hand. Fits, and it fits. Oh yes. Let's see if we can get a bolt through. So the long bolts won't fit. That is so dumb. Ah, sure it will. Look at that. It will fit, and all this sandwiched together with some nice new hardware. Yeah, we might need to make a little room up here. A little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle room. But basically, that's it. This is the last piece of the new front suspension assembly. With this on, I should be able to... horrible weld. No. I should be able to align it and hopefully drive it again. Alright, car's down. Let us just for good measure have a look under here. And remember, the insane angle. Yeah, that the lower control arm had before, it is nowhere near. So you can see the RCA doing its job. A lot of clearance all around. Not getting near anything on the chassis or on the arms. Oh yeah, so this still needs to go back, I can see. But I'm just gonna roll it outside. And then we need to clean it. Ugh. Great fun. with all the metal fabrication done, it's really important to get the car out and get all the metal dust off, because over time that's going to ruin the paint. It's also going to rust if you get moisture on there. So this is actually an important step when you don't have that much room. So get the car cleaned all the way off and enjoy it with all your new parts. Also, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing and giving a like or maybe a comment in the comment section. That will help the channel grow and will give me the focus and attention needed to get this channel off the ground to do more builds and stuff like this for you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.